Hello, students. Welcome to a new semester. I'm sure you all know by now that under the General English course, you would be dealing with two texts. One is The Issues That Matter, and the second one, Savouring the Classics. Well, today we would be starting off with a poem from Savouring the Classics. This particular text brings to you to a lot of the classical writers. I'm sure you would be able to enjoy these classical writers throughout this course. Lovely is Youth by Kalidasa. Kalidasa is one of the famous or one of the greatest playwright and a poet in India, a Sanskrit poet, in fact. And this particular poem, Lovely is Youth, is taken from Abhijnana Shakuntalam, which was later translated into English by J.G. Jennings. So the poem that you have to study is the English translation, which is an excerpt taken from Abhijnana Shakuntalam. So let's have a look at the poet, Kalidasa. As I've said, he is India's greatest playwright and a poet, and his works are mainly from the Vedas and the Puranas, and especially from Mahabharata and Ramayana. It is believed that he lived during the 4th and the 5th century, and very little is known about the poet. Some believe that he may have lived near the Himalayas during the 4th and the 5th century, and especially in the vicinity of Ujjain, because most of his works do have the setting as Ujjain. And therefore, some believe these are mere speculations. And there are yet others who believe that he was a poet of Vikramaditya, who is actually a legendary king. And this legendary king is often identified with two historical figures, Chandragupta II and Yashodharman. And it is believed that Kalidasa would have lived during Chandragupta's time. And some of them consider him as a court poet. And his notable works are Kumara Sambhavam, Abhijnana Shakuntalam, Raghuvamsha, and Meghadatta. And there are many others. And the source for our poem is Abhijnana Shakuntalam. I'll just introduce you to Abhijnana Shakuntalam a bit, because we need to understand the basic idea or the basic story of Shakuntala in order to really go into the poem. So basically, Abhijnana Shakuntalam is a work that dramatizes the story of Shakuntala as told in the epic of Mahabharata. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the story. And the setting is the 4th century AD. I'll just take you to the story. I'll just give you a very brief idea of what the story is. So Shakuntala, as you all know, is a stepdaughter of sage Kanno, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ Kanno Maharshida Dattaputriyana Shakuntala. And she falls in love with King Dushyanta of Hastinapur. And they have a mutual marriage, and this marriage is kept as a secret. And he says that one day he would come and he would take her to his palace. And Dushyanta leaves for Hastinapur. Meantime, sage Durvasa, he comes to the place of sage Kanwa, but Shakuntala does not notice his presence. She does not realize that he's there. And Durvasa is so angry that he curses Shakuntala. And the curse was, whoever you think, let him forget you. And yes, Shakuntala was thinking of Dushyanta. And we know what the history says. She just could not prove her marriage. Every time she went to Dushyanta, we realize that Dushyanta completely forgets her. And suddenly she remembers the ring that Dushyanta had given her, but she realizes that she has even lost the ring. And therefore, in no way she could not prove the marriage that she had with Dushyanta. But after a very eventful journey, or after a series of dramatic events, we see that they are united at the end. So, the context of this particular poem is that this piece that we see in Lovely's Youth is a song sung by a page boy or an attendant to King Dushyanta. Now, why does he sing? Because he feels that King Dushyanta is unwell and he's very tired. And therefore, he sings a song hoping that the king would recover from his tiredness. At present, King Dushyanta leads a life of toil, even though he's a very splendid and a powerful king. So basically, during their dramatic scenes, Dushyanta could not find where Shakuntala was when he realizes, when he gets back his memory. And this is why he's disappointed and he's kind of strained. So this poem is sung to soothe the king's turbulent mind. And this particular song talks about the transience of youth and the swiftness of the passage of time. Let's have a look into the poem. Let's look at the first stanza. I'll just read it. Lovely is youth, but quickly is it flown, as some sweet air that comes, but whence unknown. Fair was the noon, but swift the sun doth fade, and peering shadows steal and fill the glade. So let's have a better understanding of the first stanza. So, as I've already mentioned, this poem talks about the youthful days, where this poem says, or the poet says, that being young is very bliss, but it is not everlasting. It is ephemeral, where he says it may fade away very quickly. Now, what or how is youth compared to in the first stanza? He says, youth is so lovely, it's beautiful, and it flows away very quickly. It fades away so quickly. As some sweet hair. Look at the simile here. It says, youth is compared to a sweet air. യുവത്വം ഇവിടെ എന്തുമായിട്ടാണ് കമ്പയർ ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്? ഒരു സ്വീറ്റ് എയർ ആയിട്ടാണ് കമ്പയർ ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. So he says, youth is as some sweet air that we do not know where it comes and where it goes. Similarly, youth is a time that fades away quite quick. And he says, fair is the noon, but swift the sun doth fade. We know that we have the morning, we have the noon time, and it keeps changing. The whole day is not sunny. The whole day you don't see the sun alone, but you have the moon coming in. You have the shadows in the evening. So he says, even the fairest of the noon, even the sun, it fades away. So here the fair noon is a symbol of youth. He says the noon is fair, it's beautiful, it's brightest. And why is he mentioning about the noon? Because noon is the brightest time when sun reaches its zenith. But what happens? It has to fade away and move away. For what? For the peering shadows. So here you can see that the shadow is personified because it's peering, it's looking through. So the noontime, which is so bright and beautiful, has to move away for the evening. Because the evening shadows has to come and set in before the night gets in. So this is what you see in the first stanza. Youth is very lovely, but it flies away very quick. It's compared to a sweet air. You can see that it is symbolized to the fair noon, where it is bright and beautiful. Youth is also the time when you're very active, when you're vibrant, when you feel that you can do everything possible. But remember, whatever you need to do, you have to. Why? Because even this time passes away very swiftly. Now let's see what he says in the second stanza. Yet after eve there dawneth fairer night, when from heavens is drawn veil of light. Lo, after day a wider vision shone, and from the stars God's closer love is known. So what does he say in the second stanza? There is a shift. He was talking about the youthful days and how bright it is just as the sun. But now he talks about the night. So what about the night? So we just said that evening shadows appearing, and soon the night steps in. So here, even the night is portrayed as a beautiful image out here. It is bright in its own way. It says, as fairer night. So it's bright in its own way, and it appears as though it is wearing the veil of light from the heavens. So how do you know that it is wearing a veil of light with the light of the stars, with the light of the moonlight? And therefore it is fairer, which means even the night is beautiful. It also talks about the rest of the life that we live, not just the youthful days, even the rest of the life that we have ahead. The old age, even that is beautiful in its own way, where you have a mixture of the stars and the light of the moon. And it says it has wider visions, which is to say that not only the youthful days, but even the time afterwards is pure, beautiful, and bright in its own way. And he says, this reminds us of God's love at close quarters. That is why it's mentioned here. God's closer love is known. A spectacular vision, right? I'm sure you would have enjoyed the scene from your terrace where you can see the moonlit sky. It's beautiful. So, God has created such a beautiful universe for us. And He's asking, what is the use of all these if we really don't have the time to stand and stare at them? And when can we do that? When we have all the time before we move into our responsible days. And that time is definitely the days of our youth. And then he moves forward to the last stanza where he repeats what he said in the first stanza, where he comes back to say that youth is the most loveliest of it all. But remember, it is quickly gone. So I'll read this. Lovely is youth, but quickly is it gone. A meteor in the sky that falling shone, nor all our world suffice to fill one night. The sum of lives is but a meteor of light. So, what does he say? We know that this is a repetition, which is to reinforce the idea that youth is ephemeral and it may fade away quickly. And this time, he compares youth to a meteor. I'm sure you know what a meteor is, Ulka, or a falling star, which is short lived. So, human life is as short lived as a meteor of light. So, this is a metaphor here. So, in the first stanza, we saw that there was a simile where he compared it to the sweet air. But here, he's using this as a metaphor where youth is compared to a meteor. So he says, the poet says, life with its different faces is so beautiful and it has to be enjoyed. And remember, no material pleasures could replace this beauty of it. So we need to set up our time in order to enjoy the beauty of life, especially the most blissful youth. നിങ്ങളെല്ലാവരും ഇപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങളുടെ യൂത്ത്ഫുൾ ഡേയ്സിലാണ്. Remember, this is a very short period of time during your lifetime. Also remember, this is the best time of your lifetime. You're all active and energetic. You can do what you want. Whatever your body and the soul and the mind thinks, you can do it right away. Because you're so bright and beautiful. But remember, the other times of your life journey is also beautiful. But sometimes the body may not act according to your mind. You would have a lot of other responsibilities. Your body might be weak. But youthful days എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമ്മളുടെ ഏറ്റവും ബെസ്റ്റ് മൊമെന്റ് ആണ്. നമുക്ക് എന്തൊക്കെ ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നുവോ, നമ്മൾ എന്തൊക്കെ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നുവോ, നമ്മൾ എത്രമാത്രം നമുക്ക് ഡ്രീം ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നുവോ, ഇതെല്ലാം നമുക്ക് സാധ്യമാവുന്നത് നമ്മുടെ യൂത്ത്ഫുൾ ഡേയ്സിലാണ്. അതിനാൽ പോയിട്ട് നമ്മളെ ഓർപ്പിക്കുകയാണ്, യൂസ് this time to the maximum and do not be looking too much into your future and forget the days of your blissful time. So ഇവിടെ എന്താ സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്? നമ്മൾ ആദ്യമേ പറഞ്ഞു, ഒരു പേജ് ബോയ് ദുഷ്യന്തനോട് പറയുകയാണ് that ഇങ്ങനെ സങ്കടപ്പെട്ടിരിക്കരുത്, ഒത്തിരി ഭാവിയെ പറ്റി ഓർത്ത് വിചാരപ്പെടരുത്, but make use of the time now because you're so young, you're bright and beautiful just like the sun, and remember, this is a meteor of light. It fades away so quickly, just like the meteor, which is short-lived. So remember, whatever you need to do, you have to do it now. It's a reminder for Dushyanta. Similarly, this poem is a reminder for each one of us, the relevant message for each one of us. So the concept of carpe diem is what you can see in this poem. Carpe diem കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടോ? What is the concept? It is basically used to urge someone, to tell someone to make the most of the present time and give little thought to the future. Do you remember in the last semester, you were taught a poem, The Chance of Humming? Remember? Written by Rumi. What did he say? You need to be enjoying the present and do not be worried about tomorrow, or do not be worried about the future. So similarly, Kalidasa says, human life is as short-lived as a meteor flight. So always remember, while you are in your younger days, which is the best time of your lifetime, don't while away your time. Use it to the fullest. Enjoy it to the fullest. Don't be thinking too much about the future and destroying your lovely days. It's a blissful period, a wonderful period where you will never be able to come back to in the journey of your life. When you move ahead, when you have its own beauties, when you move ahead, you always tend to look back and think about the days of your youth. And that is when you realize as to how much vibrant you were. But it was so short. നിങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവരും ഇപ്പോൾ കോളേജിൽ പഠിക്കുന്ന കുട്ടികളാണ്. ഈ ഒരു ടൈം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, ഈ ഒരു കോളേജ് ജീവിതം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് is wonderful, where you make friends, new friends. Your thoughts vary. You have different perspectives to life. You dream high. You crave for a lot of things. That's how beautiful this period is. Lovely is youth, as Kalidasa says. But remember, quickly is it gone, just like a meteor flight. Remember to enjoy these days. So Kalidasa and Rumi ask each of their readers to enjoy the present time. Here it talks about the youthful days, just like the little attendant who is reminding Dushyantan to not be worried about his future, but to be able to use his time now and to be able to move away from all the toils of his life. I hope you've understood this point. Thank you. Please read this once again to yourself.